So, yesterday we talked about the second step to getting out of debt. And just as a reminder, the first step to getting out of debt that I had talked about was having a passion to live a debt free life. And part of that passion is to actually have a strong hatred for debt. And I know that this might sound like a strong word, but you see, if you're not passionate about something, there is no way you can be effective or be fruitful. So for you to be fruitful on a debt-free journey, you just have to hate debt with a passion. You should dislike it. So that's the first thing that needs to go on in your head, that I don't like being in debt. I hate it. I don't want this. Once you begin to have that passion, you will be able to move to the next step. And step two I talked about yesterday was reflection. You have to reflect. How did I get here? The reason is that I see a lot of people, even here on TikTok, I see some people on debt-free journeys, debt-free communities, and they talk about how to pay off your debt, snowball method, and all these kinds of method. There's nothing wrong with those methods. They're absolutely good. But if you don't reflect about how you got to that point where you have this $50,000 debt or $60,000 credit card debt or whatever it is, then you would continue to be in debt. I can guarantee you. Even someone commented on someone else's page, I don't know if it was yesterday, and the person was saying that, yes, I used this snowball method you're talking about, and I paid off my credit card, but now I'm back in debt. Because the person never took time to understand how they arrived at this point where they had debt in the first place and begin to make changes from that mindset, from a changed mindset. They just wanted to pay off the debt, and they paid off the debt and found themselves back in that situation. It's like someone who has an addiction. If you have an addiction and decide, I'm not going to drink, then maybe for 3 or 4 days or 1 week you stop drinking, but then a few weeks later you find yourself back in the same state you were before, maybe even worse. It's just because you never reflected and thought about how you arrived at the point where you became dependent on alcohol. So the same thing, how did you become dependent on your credit cards, on living in debt? You have to reflect and you have to write things down and say, this is how I got here. Maybe it's indiscipline. Maybe it could be anything. You need to take time to reflect. If you don't, you would go back to where you're coming from. But today, step number 3 is to